we have a lot of districts that we work with in coaching. And when we're coaching with them, there are oftentimes aha moments that come up. And when we are working with them, teachers will say something like, oh, I didn't realize I had that. So we actually put together a list of those aha moments where teachers said, wow, I didn't realize we had that. That's great. So we thought it would be a really helpful webinar to show you some of those hub components that are missed at times. We're going to show you our literature connections that are available. So as always, we talk about using empowering writers as a jumping off point with literature. We provide sample literature connections. Ideally, anytime your kids are in front of text, whether it's in reading or science or social studies, those are all opportunities for you to be making connections. But we also have a list in there where we've made, we selected some read alouds that also make the kinds of connections we want to be making with students. Our text analysis forms really just help us in continuation with that. A way to look at text for the purposes of how do I take what I do in writing and link it to any kind of text experience that we have. So we're going to share those forms with you today. We're also going to talk about how the hub itself is really coaching at your fingertips. What is in there and what's available for you so that you can actually improve your practice. So we're going to just share some of those pieces with you. I know many times we feel like we have a lot on our plate and I don't want to take on any more. There's some really quick ways in which you can inform your instruction that makes it a lot easier. And then we encourage everybody to sign up for what really is our most popular gateway, which is Lessons of the Month. So if you sign up for Lessons of the Month, they get pushed to you on a monthly basis. And our teachers love those and wait for that. And then we're going to talk about the blog. That's the Love to Write and Read All Day, which we wanted to share with you that you have access to that. And then our Canadian teachers can subscribe to the Canadian Teacher Couple, or any of our US teachers can subscribe to that as well. And I believe we have Erica on today. So she will actually turn that over to her at that point, just to have her tell us a little bit about the blog that she does for us. So those are objectives. We're going to cover that. Again, in the chat box, Art has put in the link to the last webinar that we did 2 weeks ago, which was the first part of I Didn't Know I Had That. So in part 1, we showed everybody the pacing guides. So there's pacing guides that are available for you to help you really with how do I move through these lessons in a meaningful way. We have alignment charts that are available by state and generically. There are baseline and checkpoint prompts, and there's analytic and holistic rubrics. So all of that we covered in part 1, and we addressed how you can utilize that and showed you. I also, I know that we have a new rubric that's up, which is the constructed response rubric. I don't know if you shared that one last week, Di.
No, it wasn't quite ready last week. So,
and I also want to say that Diane has just done a video with a modeled lesson on how to walk through that constructed response rubric. And so that's going to be put up there shortly. So it's a nice little package of here's the rubric, here's how I use it, and then here's how I use it to enhance student writing. So it's a good resource that's going to be in there for you. So at this point, we're going to just start with the beginning. So what's ever in bold, we're going to address today with you. And Di, why don't you take them right into the literature connections?
Certainly. So our literature connections are really meant for you to be able to use any kind of literature and or text that you're already doing right within your classroom. So I just want to take you into the hub, because that's really the goal now, is to understand where all of these things, where you can find them. And that is exactly what teachers say. They have no idea where these things reside. So I'd like to take you on a little hub tour. Day and I are just going to kind of go through some of the contents. So when you hop into the hub, and then, just in the chat box, if you have the hub, just say yes. If you do not have the hub, just put no. And that way we can have the conversation, because everything that we're doing here, almost all of the assets are also available on our website, or for those of you who use the printed guides. The only thing that's not going to be available for those of you with the printed guides are our professional development videos. They reside only in the hub, but we can talk a little bit about that as well. So when you hop into your hub, you start in your planning guide. And one of the things that I would do as a teacher is like, yeah, I get it. I get, like, I need to plan. I understand that. Let me see the lessons. I want to get in there and dive into the lessons. But that's where people miss some of these really great tools that we've provided for you. So in the hub, you're right here. It's called your planning guide, and you have several different assets. The first thing that I want to take you into are what we call our text analysis forms with our literature connections. So let's hop right into those literature connections. When you get into this particular section, and all I do is just click on the name, and here I am. There's a little blurb right up at the top to kind of get you started. The text analysis forms are really provided for you so that you can use any of the texts within your classroom. So some of you have brand new reading adoptions, or perhaps you're on a year 2 or 3 of a new reading adoption. And oftentimes the literature connections are in those adoptions are unbelievably rich. There's really good literature, there's informational text. So I want you to know that if you have a brand new reading adoption, or you're still currently using one that you've had for a couple of years, those are great literature pieces and or text pieces that you can use to teach students how to make the reading writing connection. So we're going to start by looking at these text analysis forms. And I have a little pro tip for you. If you get together with your grade level and you focus on a set of skills or strategies, each teacher can preview a series of text, fill in the form, and then share with each other so that you do not have to do all the work by yourself. So let's just take a look at our informational text analysis form and frame that up a little bit. So these text analysis forms provide you with the ability to look at the texts that you use in your classroom, whether it be in your reading work, your science, your social studies, music class, PE, whatever text comes naturally in your classroom. You want to assess the instructional opportunities. And here's how you do that. Basically, you take a look at the text form and you begin to think, all right, what would I use this particular text for? How can I showcase a skill or a strategy that the author used and let the students know how to begin to pick out those opportunities or those pieces of that text? So for instance, if I had an article with headings, I may want to take a look at these text features. That might be just a great article to share with students. And then I would fill out the form, put in the title, publisher of the author. And what I would then do is I would make sure I kept that form for that particular text. Because I don't know about you, but every year I pick up a text and I think, that was really great last year, but what did I do with it? That's what these text analysis forms can help you to do. It'll just keep an accounting of what text you use and then what particular skill you used it for. And then, of course, we give you a couple of little identifiers. If the informational text does not have text features, why do you know, or how do you know that it's informational in nature? And then we just give you some time to sort of reflect on that. So next time you pick up that text, you'll have a good idea as to how you want to use that. We also give some differentiation tips. If it's general in nature or written more like a thesis statement, then maybe students can write a clear topic sentence that references the main ideas. So we've also given you a way of sort of making it your own. So this is the informational text analysis form. And as you go through, you can see that we're asking you to identify and locate specific skills within a text. Now, is every text going to be good for every single one of these skills? No, not necessarily. And by the way, if it's early in the year, you may not be teaching golden bricks. But later on in the year, let's say you're in January or February and you want to teach golden bricks, then the text that you're using during that time of the year will support that particular skill. So this one is the informational text analysis. We also have a narrative book analysis. So any of the literature pieces that you're using. So for every literature experience, you want to have one of these book analysis forms so that later on you can assess those instructional opportunities. These are all available as a download and a print. And if I go to the top here, you can either assign that to students, which this is not an assignable piece. You don't want to give this to students necessarily. This is where you download, print, and then you would print several off and fill them in. And my pro tip for that is scan it and create a digital library for yourself. That way, when that form is all filled out, you have a digital library of texts and literature that you can use. All right, so let's take a look now at what else happens in this particular section. So you've got the informational analysis and the narrative analysis forms. Now let's talk a little bit about those literature connections. We've provided a series of book titles for you. And these are just recommended or suggested titles, but we've done some of the work along the way. And if you use these in conjunction with the narrative analysis forms, you'll have a really good library of books that you can use to teach specific skills and help kids to make the reading writing connection. What I love about our literature connection lists is that we've created not only the title, but we've given you a series of skills that we've already identified in a book just like this. So for instance, if you're going to be teaching a critical character, setting, or object in elaborative detail, the book A Bad Case of Stripes might be a great recommended title. It's also available in Spanish. So for those of you who are teaching a dual language, we've identified the fact that some books are available in Spanish for you. Now, there is no need for you to go out and buy all of these books. That is not at all what we're suggesting. But if you have these titles in your classroom library, perhaps in your school media center or in your public libraries, we've done some of the work so that when you're teaching a specific skill, you can use that particular book to showcase that skill. And of course, it always goes back to our methodology at Empowering Writers. The first step in our methodology is to introduce and define a skill through a published text. So this is just a series of picture books. So this is the elementary list that you will have in your particular guide. But we've also created a middle grade fiction list because what we have found is that depending on the grade level you teach, there is so much in these middle grade fiction novels. Every single chapter begins with an effective or entertaining beginning, and so often ends with an interesting ending, an extended ending. And so we've created a whole list of novels that you can also tap into. So depending on the grade level that you teach, you may want to choose picture books. You may want to choose some middle grade fiction. But again, we've done some of the work for you so that you can choose the books that you already have in your libraries and find the skills that are appropriate. There's a multicultural list for those of you who want to sort of tap into the diversity in your classroom. We've created a multicultural list, and we've even provided some ISBN numbers for those in case you did want to purchase any of those. But these are some that we have found that have been certainly effective. Once again, here are some skills that we have found right within the books that we've identified. The final list that you'll have in your hub guide, and by the way, these are available also on our website. When I hop into the website, I'll show you where you can find those, is this opinion and persuasive literature connection list. Now, what's so funny about opinion or persuasive writing is that very rarely do you find an actual book that's opinion or persuasive in nature. They're usually based on articles or op-ed columns. But we do have a couple of books that we love to use that actually lead us to write an opinion or a persuasive piece. So a book like Hey Little Ant, the author leaves you hanging and asks a question of the students. Would you squish the ant or not? And it just leads them into writing an opinion piece, either a paragraph and or an essay, depending on the grade level that you teach for sure. So this is all part of the hub. And again, this is something that teachers say, hey, I didn't know we had that. So the text analysis forms both informational and narrative, and then all of your literature connections. If there's anyone out there who teaches kindergarten, first grade, second grade, we also have another list called the side-by-side list. And what that list is it's an informational and a narrative book list side by side. So we've created a series of themes. So if you're studying animals, if you're studying habitats, if you're studying seasons, we've given you some suggested titles for side by side work that you would do right within the lesson plans. All right, let's hop back out of our planning guide. So that's located right here, book analysis form, literature connections. And now I want to turn it over to Dea, because one of the other things that is really key in the hub is what we call coaching at our fingertips. So Dea, do you want to kind of take us into that and talk a little bit about what's important about that?
Sure. So throughout the guide, we have inserted some planning guide for you, teacher background information, and model lessons. And really what I just want to spend a few minutes really talking to you about is how does that help to inform your instruction? So essentially everything that you see in our guides that we end up adding or enhancing, we do it because it comes up as questions. So for the longest time, it was always very popular to have a one-day training. So many of you have done training with us. And sometimes what happens is you do the training and then you don't have an opportunity to implement those lessons for a couple of months. And so now you have to get into the classroom and teach the lesson, and we don't always remember instructionally, how do I set that lesson up? So the first thing that we were going to provide you with is some information. So the way to simplify the process is we have a professional development video list. And so right in the planning guide section, you can go to that professional development video list and you can see where these videos are located. And so all of these videos that are under that professional development are really designed to either give you the teaching background that you need, to inform your instruction, or to give you an opportunity to actually see a modeled lesson. So as we look down this list, we're going to see that there's some lessons that are titled teacher background in the planning guide. Anytime that we provide you with teacher background, that is teacher background information that you need to be able to understand, to be able to convey to your students. So many times that teacher background is short, quick snippets, a couple of minutes of video that remind you what the purpose of this particular lesson is and how you might utilize it. We also have listed in there what we call modeled lessons. And what's great about the modeled lessons is this opportunity for you to see the lesson take place in a classroom. So it is one of our master teachers in there doing the instruction. And then in these modeled lessons, oftentimes we have edited them down and put some voiceovers to allow you to move through the key components quickly, but we also point out what we want you to notice. So all of our modeled lessons really run through our methodology that we have developed, which is, always starts out with literature as the jumping off point, always watching the teacher model. What does modeling look like? What is the questioning technique that the teacher uses to move through that modeled lesson? How is it that we keep the students engaged? What kinds of ways in which we build vocabulary? You actually see the modeling component take place, and then oftentimes those lessons end with guided practice. So it is a unique opportunity for you to really see what it looks like in a classroom. So anywhere where you see a modeled lesson, that's what you can expect to be revealed as you watch that particular lesson. The other part that we also have invest in these sections are what we call the planning coaches. So the planning coaches happen to come up at the beginning of each section. The reason why the planning coaches are in there, it's most of the time it's me and Diane, and we're having conversations about the particular unit that's going to unfold, or ways in which you want to think about it. So a couple of times, we'll explain to you why these lessons are important. So perfect example, and really, I think what really gave birth to the whole idea of the planning coaches was the whole section that we do first, which is called the Annotation and Analysis, and that literacy launch. And as teachers of writing, oftentimes teachers say, our kids need to be writing. And so one of the reasons why we started to develop those planning coaches really was to debunk some of the myths and to say, you know what, yes, we haven't written yet, in this first unit of this writing curriculum, but it's more important initially that students understand the foundational skills that go into writing, that they're able to identify the types of writing so that they can look at writing and say, here's the genre, here's the author's purpose. That means it's going to fall into these particular graphic organizers. Here's how I summarize that. So the planning coaches is really an opportunity for us to really talk about questions that come up often. So the planning coaches, again, not long, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, but it really sets you up for that particular unit.
So Day, I just want to add something because teachers ask this all the time. This list is literally a list. It is not a clickable, you can't click on it and go right to the portion of it. At this point, it's really download, print, and put it right into your planning guide.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, because that's frustrating when you go to click it and it doesn't go
It doesn't
there.
click. Exactly.
But it'll tell you where everything is found. So it's a great resource to have right alongside it.
So I just want to take you into the literacy launch for a moment and just show you some of those assets that Dea talked about. So I've now clicked into section number 1 right over here in my table of contents. And the first thing you do, you land on the planning coaches. Every single section at the top of the section, you'll see the planning coaches videos. Notice this one's about 5 minutes long. And when you click on it, it is Dea and I typically giving you some information.
Hi, teachers. I'm Dea. And I'm Diane. And we're your planning coaches. And we love that you're here because this is the first step to diving into your unit, which we call the literacy launch.
So we give you a little bit of background information. And then I'm just going to hop into one of the lessons here to show you where some of the other tools are. So this is lesson number 5, strategic reading, informed writing. And right here is your teacher background video. Again, for those of you who have come to some of our workshops, maybe this is going to be really helpful for reminding you what this particular lesson might be about, kind of like the pitfalls or the strategies. The other thing that we've done in many of these is that we've chaptered them. So the first chapter would be strategic reading. And if you're already comfortable and familiar with that, you just want to remind yourself how we summarize text, you can always hop right into that particular section of the video. And that's certainly up to you.
Have the ability to skim and scan a text, predict genre, and begin to understand all of the text conventions. Now what?
So again, notice that we're going to do that so that you have no choice but to stumble right over those videos before you get to your lesson plan. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Hub, this is just one of the lessons in the Hub. And we are not even talking about the assets that are direct to student assets today, but that's just a little hint of what you would find in the Hub. Those of you who are Hub users, there's plenty of you out there. I know that some of those videos are the most favorite ones that you use. The final piece that Dea talked about was the modeled lesson. So I'm just going to come and grab a little modeled lesson here. This happens to be in this particular cut and paste. And once again, we have it all chaptered out for you. And if we go right here to the first chapter,
the teacher is now going to model as an oral activity how to determine where a detailed sentence fits.
So we've coached you through what we want you to see, some of the ideas that we want you to kind of pay attention to. So you can go right into the chapter, or you can start at the very beginning. Some of the model lessons are a little bit longer. Notice that this is going to be over 19 minutes long, and that's because we need to give you a full feel for what that lesson looks like. And then again, that's why we have chaptered it. If you're comfortable with portions of the modeled lesson but want to see others, then you can hop into each chapter as you feel necessary. Dea, anything else to add to our professional development work?
No, other than the fact that whenever you get into a lesson, anything that comes before the lesson is the information that you need that will inform your instruction. And many times what's embedded within the lesson are the assets we're going to share with kids.
Thanks. Are there any questions about the Hub itself? Anyone have anything that they're wondering about before we hop out of the Hub? Because I'm about to head over to our website. because the rest of our, I didn't know we had this, actually exists on our website.
And I know somebody has already tried to access the text analysis forms. We're actually uploading those now. So if you can't get them right away, they'll be up there.
Yep. And Carrie, you have a district guide, so those will be added right into your district guide for you. We'll make sure that happens. Okay. All right. So I'm going to head over now. So this is the hub, but now I want to head over to our home website. This is www.empoweringwriters.com. Here's your landing page. And one of the things that teachers always want to know about are our lessons of the month. So I just want to show you how to find our lessons of the month, how to sign up for them initially, and then how to find them once you are comfortable and ready to use them. So as you scroll through our homepage, what we want you to do is to scroll all the way to the bottom. And as you scroll over to the bottom of our homepage, you'll have a little piece where you can get the lesson of the month. You would put your first and last name in there, your school district, your state, and then subscribe. And then from there, every month we provide a lesson of the month for you. Now, those of you who are comfortable and familiar with Empowering Writers, you'll know that those lessons of the month are really used for review and reinforcement of specific skills. So every lesson of the month is skill-based, but we try to give you a little creative twist on that skill. So these lessons, although the skill will be found right within your hub or your printed resource, you may not find it with this particular text connection, or even with some of the sentence starters that we provide. So it's really useful for anyone who wants to dip their toe into Empowering Writers. If you don't know us very well, start with one of the lessons of the month and see how that goes for you. Those of you who are our partners, which there are plenty of you here today, those lessons of the month are really to enhance the learning that goes on in your classroom. Once again, we try to do it in a creative way. So I'm just going to kind of scroll back up to the top. I'm going to hover over the teacher portion, because the lessons of the month are also archived for you. So when you hover over the word teacher, here's what you get. Right over here, you'll see lessons of the month. When you click on the lessons of the month, you'll find all of our lessons are archived. Now, we probably have archived the last 2 years. If there was something that you remember from 2018 or 2019, it may not be archived on our website any longer, but many of them are. So I'm just going to hop over here. This is the grade 2 through 5 lessons of the month. They're all organized by grade level, and that's how we put them out. We send out your email towards the end of the month, the previous month, for the following month, and then you can access any of those. We do it in Google Slides and in PowerPoint slides. So when you get to your lesson of the month, you'll have either a Google slide or a PowerPoint that you have to make a copy of. And then all the directions for the lesson are right there within the slides. So this happens to be the November 2021 lesson. And I'm just going to hop over here to the grade 3 lesson of the month. And it's all about kindness rocks. Notice that you would download the Google Slides, and I'm just going to click on the Google Slides. I'm going to make a copy for myself, and then I have my lesson plan right there. So all of the lesson plans are now in Google Slides. It just seems to be easier for us to create them that way and for you to access them very easily. We provide links for you. So if you are looking at some of the slides, there might be a link to a website where you can learn about kindness. This is the Kindness Rock, or World Kindness Day. We might provide a link to a YouTube reading of a story if that's important to that particular lesson. And then just notice everything we do at Empowering Writers is objective driven, and it's procedural in nature. So these slides are for you, the teacher. Now, in some of our archived lessons, what you're going to find is that we've created some slides that you would actually assign out to students. So last year, when students were kind of in and out of classrooms a little bit more than they are this year, it was important that we were able to send those lessons of the month to you that way, so that you could push out a lesson to the students, and the directions were written directly to the students. Anything going forward is really for the teachers. All right. Questions or anything about the lessons of the month that anyone has, certainly put that right into the chat box. And if that is comfortable for you and you're good to go with that, I want to go back to and hover over our teacher name here, because what we're going to do now is we're going to go find how we get to the blog. So when you click over here on the blog, you'll see Love to Write and Read All Day. That's our Kylene Reed, who is one of our master trainers. This is the blog that she writes, but there's also a blog written by empowering writers, and that's usually informational in purpose. Kylene's blog is really the teaching come alive in the classroom. Kylene is a gifted teacher who's been with empowering writers for several years. And what we love about her lessons is that she always provides us with student samples, with charts, and step-by-step directions. So in addition to lessons of the month, you also have some very creative ways that Kylene and the teachers that she works with have used our lessons. These are all archived right here. As a matter of fact, the other day, a teacher asked us, where is that lesson on balloons over Broadway? Well, that was a lesson that Kylene did several years ago, but it's archived right here, and I'll share that with you because that one is kind of fun. It's a lesson for this time of year, and it's about balloons over Broadway are about the Thanksgiving parade, the Macy's Thanksgiving parade. And so as you scroll through, you'll see that these lessons are some of the ones that are just going to come to life. Kylene does a great job in making sure that everything she does is based upon the skill structure that we use at Empowering Writers. So I'm still trying to find it. Again, don't forget, I'm just scrolling. Oh, here's one about perfect snowmen. We've got some Martin Luther King work, January vision boards. These are all archived. And I'm just about to balloons over Broadway. There it is. And so when I pop over here, this is a lesson plan with specific charts and student samples that go along with it. All right, questions, comments, or thoughts? Anyone have anything that they're wondering about so far? All right, well, there is another blog that is new for us, and it's not hosted on our website. It is hosted, however, by one of our faithful followers at Empowering Writers. Her name is Erica Vandenpoll. She is located in Alberta province with her husband, and she has been using Empowering Writers for over 19 years. And she uses a platform. She uses both Instagram and Facebook as her platform. And so I'm going to hop over to her, and I want her to actually, Erica, if you're there, you can unmute yourself and just introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, everyone. I apologize for the noise in the background. That's my 5-month-old. So I'll make this quick. He's feeling a little grumpy. Yeah, so my husband and I are both teachers up in Canada. We are in Alberta. Together, we have about 19 years of teaching experience. We actually have spent most of that at the same school, which has been really interesting. We've been using Empowering Writers since we started teaching and have just fallen in love with it. So in talking with Diane and Dea, we kind of started up our Canadian Teacher Couple platform to bring a little bit more information and highlight Empowering Writers to Canadian teachers, because it's fairly unknown up here, but it works just as well for Canadian curriculums as it does for curriculums in the States. But yeah, so if you want to follow along with us, we highlight a lot of the great parts of Empowering Writers that we love. We also include some of our own favorite lessons for like math and social studies, things like that, just other classroom ideas and general information, because we just really like, while we love teaching kids, we also enjoy sharing what we've learned over the years with teachers. So you can find us on Instagram or Facebook. We are the Canadian Teacher Couple, and if you search us up, you should be able to find us. So I don't know if there's any questions or if there's anything else I can really add, but yeah, that's us.
Thanks, Erica. That's great. Yeah. And so
I happen
anyone
to
who
really
is
enjoy her posts, by the way.
Yeah. She's very clever. She gets her little video going and I'm like, oh my goodness. And she has a 5-month-old baby. So don't even discount that. Exactly. All right. So at this point, if anyone has questions or comments, certainly you can share those with us. We've really taken you through most of the I didn't know we had this part 2, but certainly we're here to answer some questions. So if anyone has anything, go right ahead and put that in the chat box.